So many of these are really common or really easy to fall into misunderstandings about astrology that I sure wish someone had told me about before I started learning a ton of misinformation. The internet is a scary place out there for astrology, guys. If you are interested in learning about the common misconceptions that people hold about astrology and some truth behind them, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you are always up to date with what the stars have in store for you. Hi, I'm Maren. I am a professional astrologer, current college student, and witch. I combine traditional Hellenistic astrological techniques with modern psychological counseling dynamics in order to provide grounded spiritual guidance. This video is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online counseling service with thousands of licensed therapists who are certified by their state's board in therapy and counseling. You can receive licensed, verified counseling through your tablet, phone, computer, or whatever device you are on. You'll get matched with a counselor in under 24 hours if you're looking for one. And BetterHelp also holds group sessions each week where you get to touch on multiple topics like relationships and how to help overcome anxiety. BetterHelp costs $65 a week and has financial aid for those who qualify. It's worldwide and it's not a crisis hotline. Those are linked below if you're looking for something like that. On BetterHelp's website, there is an easy to follow sign-up process to find your licensed therapist and start your counseling, taking you step by step into signing up and finding the exact help that you're looking for right now. So the first misconception that I'm going to run through is probably the biggest one that I'm most used to addressing. Like, I literally have a saved note in my notes where I just copy and paste it to the comments. I mostly get on TikTok. If you're not following me on TikTok, I've exploded on TikTok. I now have almost 30,000 followers, and I literally cannot believe it. Like, I've been a little nobody, like not getting any social media following really, and suddenly TikTok has been my platform of choice. So check me out there. But anyway, cusp signs. I have a full video up on this that goes really in depth, but long story short, there's a myth that being born near the beginning or the ending of a particular sign means that you get some of the significations of the neighboring sign. But in a chart, we can see that planets are either one in sign or they're in the other sign. There is no gradient, no blending, and no mixing around the cusps. All a cusp is a term to describe the beginning or the ending of a sign. It's just describing the location. It does not connote or it does not denote a mixing at all. Some people may call themselves a cusp because they don't know much about astrology and all they know is that they're born nearing the beginning or the end of a sign and they're not sure which sign they are. But that's a separate misunderstanding of what astrology is, which is why it's so important to pull up your whole natal chart, which you can do at astro.com and see that not only are you not a sun in one sign, you're also all these other planets all in one sign. Or each planet isn't a sign. So that often when people really do believe that they have the qualities of neighboring signs, it's because they have multiple planets in both of those signs. So that technically they do have the traits of both, but it's not because one planet is in a cusp sign. It's because, for example, you can have the sun nearing the end of Taurus and Mercury nearing the beginning of Gemini. So that this can represent that even though you're doing something out in the world that is very Taurus and very earthy and very tangible with your career, you're quick-witted and you're curious like a Gemini with your communication style. That's not because either planet is on a cusp. It's because we're made up of multiple factors in our natal charts. So the zodiac is not a gradient even though multiple planets' energies are differentiated. So to reiterate, the zodiac is not a blending. You can have a planet at 2959 degrees of a sign, and you can have a planet at 0 degrees of the next sign, and they're not related. Feeling like you have traits of multiple signs is probably because you have planets in multiple signs. And you're not just a sun sign, you're an entire natal chart, so you don't have to be special through being on a cusp. You are special because we are all special natal charts. Second one, The second myth is that astrology is a cause or an external force acting upon us. This has been a debate for thousands of years, but generally astrology is understood kind of like a clock on the wall. The clock is not making it 3 p.m., but the clock is sure as hell telling you that it's 3 p.m. Similarly, astrology is not making you do anything. Your Cancer moon is not making you emotional as shit. It's signaling the fact that you are emotional as shit. Not that every Cancer moon is, but most of you guys, you know what I mean. The chart is not something to blame. The chart is not something to try and negotiate. The chart is not somewhat powerful or one force of nature. The chart is literally a mirror telling us of what is, so it's nothing to act against or work with. It simply is. It's literally a mirror. And I have full videos up on like philosophical discussions about this, so if you want to see either of these, it gets more into what the chart is, you know, what astrology is, fate and determinism and free will and those type of things. Third misconception. Astrology is actually not just you and your psychology, it's external people, situations, and events as well. Only the first house really relates to you and your physical body and your identity. The chart is a promise to be carried forth. And with the chart when the chart refers to a human birth, this means that the human life is that promise, and that includes various things that are not just related to solely you. Next misconception, I think we're on 4, but I'm not a numbers person, so we're just gonna keep going. The 12-letter alphabet, as it is called in astrology, that equates the meanings of signs, houses, and planets. In reality, they are the 3 separate categorical systems. Therefore, the moon does not equal Cancer equal the 4th house. Having the sun in Aries does not equal having the sun in the 1st house. They are very different systems of meaningful overlay. It's kind of like how a run is not the same thing as running, as the same thing as going on a run. They're fundamentally semantically different. Like literally the way in which they are configured cannot be equated because they're categorically different systems. If you want a full video on why the 12-letter alphabet isn't valid and why even if some of the same keywords are used to describe some of these things, that they're incredibly different systems of classification and distinct ways of thinking about the structure of reality, let me know in a comment down below, because this is definitely one that can seem like an easy way to understand astrology, but in fact it just confuses us because it's not really founded in the understandings that make up astrology. So let me know if you're new to this or any of the other debunked concepts as well. Next misconception is that there is a 13th sign, cough cough, Ophiucus. Firstly, there's a fundamental difference between the signs that we're using and the constellations in the sky. There's the constellational zodiac, as it's called, where the constellations are throughout our zodiac, and yes, this has changed. However, we are not using literal constellations. Astrology is a symbolic system, so we're using the 12 major constellations, which are entirely residing in the sun's ecliptic, aka the band of space that it orbits through. So to make things a little even more confusing, there is like a constellation of Leo, and then there is the geographic spatial area that we've designated as Leo. It's very astronomically based, but it's also symbolic, so it can get a bit confusing. But basically we're using an idealized 12-fold system where we divide it up into 30 degrees each, so that we can have each an equal portion of the sky for each sign. And tropical astrology is based off of this ecliptic and the seasons. So spring equinox, summer, fall, winter, that is what the tropical zodiac is based off of. And this is the kind of astrology most often practiced in the West. And it's the one that I conceptually back and promote using. I'll link a video down below to an astrologer who I heard speak at a conference a few years ago, and he spoke about why the tropical zodiac is to be used, at least in the way that we currently use and understand astrology as a mirror for reality. And I found him at the time that I was looking to figure out which zodiac I wanted to use and support, and his argument I found incredibly sound and incredibly relevant and conceptually backed, and it's the most parsimonious thing that I've heard. And if you know me, you know parsimony is my shit. It's a word that I think, it's my mantra basically, and if you don't know what parsimony is, it's the principle that the theory that we should adopt is the theory that has the simplest, most organized, most straightforward way of understanding things, And frankly, I find his specific argument for the tropical zodiac, the way he articulates it, better than I could say myself, and something that is very convincing. But to take away, if we're experiencing the seasons here on Earth, and astrology is a symbolic map for our existence, then I find it kind of convincing in that way, at least, that the tropical zodiac is relevant, to say the least. And then there's the sidereal zodiac, and the sidereal zodiac is based on the locations of the fixed stars in the constellations. It's widely used in India, and because the Earth's axis is actually wobbling and is shifting in a conical motion, it takes about 26,000 years to complete a complete cycle, to finish a cycle. The relative location from us to the fixed stars of the constellations is changing little by little over time, which is why tropical and sidereal placements differ. And it's important to note along with this that tropical zodiacs, or the tropical zodiac, can be used in either the east or the west, and the sidereal zodiac can be used in either the west or the east. They are not exclusive, they're just more popular in those ways because of what the cultural upbringing has been. And that understood, there are literally 88 constellations that cover the entire, northern hemispheres, both hemispheres of the sky. Ophiucus is not some special 13th that is somehow relevant when the other 87 aren't. The zodiac signs aren't the same thing as the constellations. We're using an idealized system based on the ecliptic, so yeah, there's no Ophiucus in our system. Next myth or misunderstanding is that if you have empty houses in your chart, it means that area of life is non-existent or unimportant. Whether or not you have any planets in your first house, you have a body. Whether or not you have any planets in your second house, you have possessions. In using the whole sign house system, each house corresponds to one sign, and therefore that sign's ruler will tell you about the condition of the house. So look to the ruler of the sign sitting in a house to determine that condition of that house and that area of life. So in this particular example, there's an empty first and an empty second house. So the first house is ruled by Venus. Venus rules Libra, and Venus is up in Gemini in the 9th house. So the person's body might be physically beautiful, Venus, and in the 9th house, they might have an interest in higher education or philosophy. Second house in this chart, Scorpio, ruled by Mars in the Aquarius 5th house, so they might make money through Martian activities of creativity like sculpting, construction, or metallurgy. Just a few ways that I'm demonstrating how the rulers of the houses work to determine house conditions. Next misconception, you are not your chart. So what I mean by this is that the chart is a direct reflection of you and your circumstances in every facet and perfect specification, and it's a direct symbolic map. This means that even though you might speak on it as my Mars or my ascendant or my moon, the chart is just a snapshot in time that encapsulates the energy you're referring to by saying my moon. So it can be weird to think of it like that because it's a perfect mirror, and since we're looking at it, it can't literally be us because it's separate from us, but it is literally a reflection of us, and that is esoteric, but it's a direct language of the usness that is playing out and activated throughout life. And as an honorable mention, actually, I'm going to throw this in, that the chart is a promise that's activated throughout life, and so some events and energies manifest much later than others, which can be seen in lots of cool timing techniques, but the chart is not static, it's activated differently over time. That's basically a couple of myths and misconceptions there that you might not have known about astrology. So if you enjoyed this and you would like to check out my private consultations down below, feel free to do that. I would love to read for you. Check out my other videos, my other forecasts, other more informative things, and also check out BetterHelp. Thank you for sponsoring this video if you are looking for counseling services around this time. Otherwise, make sure that you like, subscribe, and let me know any thoughts you have around these misconceptions. Anything that you learned or anything that you have questions about, would love to hear that. Otherwise, sending so much love, and I will see you in the next one.
But there is one thing